You're earning 65,000 a year, maybe 72K. You have a budget app on your phone. You know what compound interest means. You've watched the videos, read the threads, done the math, and yet every single month it ends the same way, a little too close to zero, and you cannot explain why. That's the part nobody talks about because you're not irresponsible, you're not reckless, you're not someone who blows money on stupid things. You're actually trying. And that's exactly what makes this so quietly maddening because the harder you try, the more it feels like something invisible keeps pulling you back. Here's what I want you to sit with for a second. Your real problem with money isn't money. It never was. But the reason runs so deep in your brain and has been running so silently for so long that no budget, no app, no raise has ever been able to touch it. And if you don't understand what it actually is, you could spend the next decade doing everything right and still feel exactly where you are right now. Think about the last time you checked your bank account. What happened in your body before the number loaded? Be honest. Was there a tightening in your chest? A slight dread? That half second where you almost didn't want to look? Here's the strange part. That feeling has almost nothing to do with what's actually in the account. Whether you have $200 or $2,000, the anxiety shows up at roughly the same intensity. And that right there is your first clue that something else entirely is going on. Your brain isn't responding to the number, it's responding to a story it was handed a long time ago. A story about what money means, what it says about who you are, whether you're safe, whether you're the kind of person that ever gets ahead. And here's where things get interesting. Neuroscientists have a term for the mental framework that drives this. It's called an emotional schema, a deep pattern that forms early in life and gets wired directly into your brain's threat detection system. Think of it like a filter that every financial decision gets run through before your rational mind ever gets a chance to weigh in. Here's the brain analogy I want you to picture. Imagine your mind as a two-floor building. On the top floor, the rational brain, calm, organized, fully aware of what it should be doing. It knows the math, it knows the plan, it's holding the spreadsheet. But on the bottom floor, that's the emotional brain. And that floor has been making your financial decisions since you were a child, watching the adults around you handle or mishandle money. It absorbed everything. The tension at dinner when bills came up, the relief when payday arrived, the shame of not having what other kids had, the unspoken rules about what money is, who gets it, and what it means about you. And here's the uncomfortable truth that changes everything. The bottom floor controls the elevator. Your rational brain doesn't get to drive until the emotional brain decides it's safe. And if the emotional brain learned early that money is dangerous, unpredictable, or tied to your worth as a person, it's been quietly overriding your best intentions ever since. But here's where most people get this completely wrong. They assume the solution is more information, more knowledge, more strategy. So they download another app, read another book, make a better budget. And it works for a week, maybe two. There's a genuine hit of motivation, a sense of finally having a system. But then the old pattern comes back, and they blame themselves for lacking discipline. What they don't realize is that their rational brain was never confused. It knew exactly what to do. The information was never the problem. The problem was sitting one floor below, running a completely different program. Let me make this real for you. Say you grew up in a household where money was unpredictable, not necessarily poor, maybe solidly middle class, but there was a low-level tension around it. It came, it went, it caused stress when it was gone and brief relief when it arrived. It was never quite stable. What does a child's brain learn from that environment? It learns that money is fundamentally unstable, that having it might not last, that spending it almost feels safer than holding it, because at least if you spend it, it was real, it was yours. You got something from it before it disappeared. Now, fast forward 20 years. You're earning 70K, and you notice the money moves. Not irresponsibly, not dramatically, but somehow the account never quite builds the way it should, and you can't explain it rationally. Because it's not rational. It's a neural program that was written when you were 8 years old, and it's been running quietly in the background ever since, doing exactly what it was designed to do. Now, here's what most people never realize, and this is the part that matters most. The loop is just a symptom. The root, the actual source, is identity. Your brain has been building a financial identity since childhood, based on what you witnessed, what you heard said and unsaid, what you felt when money was present or absent. At some point, it formed a core belief about who you are with money, and that belief, whether you're conscious of it or not, has been shaping every financial decision you've made since. And here's why this is so hard to break. Your brain is wired to protect consistency with its own identity. Predictability feels safe, even when the predictable outcome is painful. So when you try to build savings and it works for a few weeks and then collapses back to roughly the same place, lifestyle creep that felt unavoidable, unexpected expenses that seemed to appear on cue, purchases that didn't feel like choices but felt more like gravity. That's not bad luck. That's your brain returning to its financial set point. And set points aren't changed by trying harder, they're changed by going into the source. So what does the rewired version actually look like? The old brain, the unexamined one, makes financial decisions from fear. Spend it before it disappears. Avoid what feels threatening. Get relief now, deal with consequences later. It's not stupid. It was rational given the environment it learned in, but it was written for a reality that no longer exists. The rewired brain does something fundamentally different. It makes decisions from awareness instead of autopilot. It learns to recognize the anxiety signal not as a command, but as information. It learns to pause and ask, is this a real financial threat right now, or is this a pattern activating? That single question, is this real or is this a pattern, can interrupt a loop that's been running for 2 decades. It doesn't happen in a day, but it starts with one shift that changes everything. Stopping the habit of treating money as a math problem and starting to treat it as an emotional one. Because the tools you've been given, the apps, the budgets, the frameworks, the advice, they were all built for the top floor, built for a rational actor making calm, logical decisions in a stress-free environment. But you don't live on the top floor. Nobody does. Not really. The real work, the work that actually moves the needle, happens on the floor below. In the patterns, in the stories, in the beliefs that got written before you ever had a dollar to your name. So here's where you actually are. You have an income that should be working for you. You have the knowledge, you have the desire, but there's a gap between knowing and doing. And that gap isn't filled with more information. It's filled with self-understanding. Understanding why your chest tightens before your account loads. Understanding why certain purchases feel compulsive even when you don't want them. Understanding why financial stability feels vaguely unsafe rather than reassuring. When you understand the root, the branches start to make sense. The patterns stop feeling like moral failures and start feeling like what they actually are. Old code running on new hardware. Code that made sense when it was written, but hasn't been updated since. And here's the real revelation, the thing this whole video has been building towards. You can rewrite the code, not by forcing discipline, not by shaming yourself into better behavior, but by getting genuinely honest about what your brain actually believes and deciding clearly and consciously whether that belief is still true for the person you are today. Because the real problem with money was never money. It was always the story your brain inherited about what money means, who gets it, and whether someone like you is allowed to hold on to it. And stories, unlike habits, can be changed the moment you see them clearly. And once you start seeing your own patterns clearly, something important shifts. You stop asking, why can't I ever get this right? And you start asking, what is my brain actually protecting me from? That question leads somewhere powerful. And it connects directly to something I've gone even deeper on in this video, the reason so many people stay stuck even after they've technically saved the money. Same root, different branch.